Black Panther Wakanda Forever is the end of Marvel Phase 4, a somewhat controversial phase in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Does this movie end the phase on a high note? Let's talk about it. Hey movie fans, so Black Panther Wakanda Forever is the latest directorial outing from Ryan Coogler, who had the absolutely Herculean task of honestly just getting this movie made. As we all know, the unfortunate passing of Chadwick Boseman hung over this entire production, as he unfortunately passed away just weeks before they were set to film this movie. That combined with that, terrible thing that happened in 2020 that we dare not speak of, this movie had an uphill battle from the get-go, basically. So the fact that this movie exists at all is a testament to Ryan Coogler's skill as a director and as a storyteller. But how is it as a movie? I am still walking away from this movie internally struggling with what I actually think about it. There's a lot of good stuff in this, but I don't know if this was necessarily the movie that I was hoping for or expecting, and I don't know if that's an expectation part on me or a delivery part on Marvel. So let's first talk about the pros. Everyone in this, for the most part, is acting their butt off, with some especially notable performances. Angela Bassett as the Queen of Wakanda is just perfect. I've already heard some people mention her for, like, she deserves to be nominated for an Academy Award. I don't know if I'd go that far, but she's really, really excellent in this, and she's doing a great job of conveying the different ways people experience grief, which grief, when they dwell on that as a storytelling mechanism, I found the most compelling parts of this movie. The first half an hour, when characters are just allowed to sit in their feelings of sadness, I thought was actually very, very profound, of how do different people react to trauma and grief. I really enjoyed seeing that. I actually wish we would have gotten more of that before this movie realizes, oh yeah, we're supposed to be a superhero movie, throw in the villain and make the plot happen, and then we'll kind of acknowledge the grief and loss when it's convenient for us. I think Namor, played by Tena Huerta, I believe is how you pronounce that name, he is honestly the best thing about this entire movie, and for a good chunk of this movie, I'm rooting more for him than other people in this movie. I didn't know how they'd pull off a character like Namor, who can be cheesy if not done right. He's got wings on his feet, for crying out loud. But this guy is menacing. He is passionate about his people. He's passionate about his heritage, which I totally applaud him for that. And there's a good chunk of this movie that I'm going, are we sure he's the bad guy? But Black Panther as a franchise so far, with Namor and Killmonger, have done a really good job with their quote-unquote villains of going, oh yeah, the villains might actually have a better point than our heroes. So the individual performances in this are really, really good and really profound. Now, obviously, the loss of Chadwick Boseman hangs very heavy in the air for a good chunk of this movie. When they pay tribute to the late great actor, that really tugs on the heartstrings. The opening of this movie is the hardest opening of a Marvel movie to get through to date. I wish we could have gotten more of it. I was expecting more, I don't want to say in memoriam of Chadwick Boseman, because we do at some point need to get the story forward, but I was expecting more of a tribute, I guess, or certain character motivations I think could have been a little stronger with. Again, it's hard not to go into spoilers, but I think some things could have been shuffled around to better reflect grief and loss as a motivator for the story, as opposed to what the actual motivator for the story is, but we won't get into that. My negatives, however, there's one overriding negative I have for this, is this movie is like 2 hours and 40 minutes, and boy, do you feel it for a good chunk of time for this movie. There's quite a bit, particularly in the middle part, that it feels directionless. Like, well, we gotta show some stuff, we gotta have some world building for future Marvel movies, we gotta have these subplots that don't particularly go anywhere. It just drags. It's been a while since I've checked my watch in a Marvel movie, and I fell victim to that a couple times, I gotta be honest, in this movie. It wasn't bad. This is not a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination, but it's way too long, and there's at least two subplots that I can think of, one more important than the other, that don't really need to happen, or if they do, they could have just been reworked to really streamline and simplify things, but we've got to flesh out this MCU world instead of telling the best story you possibly can. I think there's a good story in here, but I don't... See, it's so hard to talk about this, one, without doubling into spoilers, and two, just going... This movie was dealt an incredibly tough hand. One of the hardest movies I can imagine to ever work on in terms of just the emotional stress that these actors and performers are under. There's some great moments in this film that the lines between acting and reality, I'm sure, are blurred. When characters are mourning the loss of T'Challa, it's mourning the loss of a friend. And you feel it, not from the characters, but from the actors themselves. It's like they are working through their own grief here. I wish we could have gotten more of the grieving process. I know that sounds morbid, but I really liked when characters sat with their feelings. It was a change of pace and refreshing breath of air for Marvel projects, because I'll be honest, there's times in this that I'm just going, I haven't felt superhero burnout like so many other people claiming will happen eventually, but there's some times in this that a large group of people are fighting another large group of people, and I just didn't care. And I should have, but something didn't connect for me, that it didn't necessarily all work. Now, trying to spin some positives back, because we want to make this a positive sandwich, I think where we end the story for certain characters makes a lot of sense. I didn't agree or think it rationally made sense of how we got to where we are, but by the end of it, I'm going, okay, I'm okay with the status quo of what is currently happening now. I also think Ludwig Jorgensen's, I believe is how you pronounce his name, did a fantastic job with the music. I really, really like what he brought to the table of Talokan people. They're very different phonetically from the Wakandan people, but also like their style is very different from an aesthetic standpoint, but from a musical standpoint, I thought that was really, really well done. You're terrified both of Namor, but also the Talokans. This movie is a really mixed bag, and it's really hard to go into without talking about spoilers, but there's certain decisions that I'm going, I get it. I don't know if that's the route I would have gone with, but Ryan Coogler is a fantastic director. There's brilliant cinematography in this. I noticed a lot of long takes. Ryan Coogler loves him some long takes, and I think they were excellently done. But boy, it's been a while since I've watched a Marvel movie that I felt the runtime more than I did for this, and there's some streamlining that could have happened. This movie is really not that bad, but it could have been so much better. But it felt like at a certain point, Marvel was going, we have a formula, we have a recipe. If we don't deliver on that, people are gonna get mad. I think we could have used a change of pace and let characters mourn for a little longer. We could have had a break from the action and just, I don't know. Again, like I said at the beginning, I'm still trying to process how I feel about this movie, because it's not bad. I didn't walk out of the theater hating it like I did Thor Love and Thunder. See, I hate it that much. It's making me get all tongue-tied. I hated Love and Thunder so much. This movie, there's definitely some positives, but it's a mixed bag situation for me. Well, what did you guys think of Black Panther Wakanda Forever? Did you absolutely love it? Were you kind of about it? I'm very curious to hear some people's opinions on this. I'm sure I'm in the minority on this. I'm sure a lot more people loved it, and that's awesome if you did. If you did, let me know down in the comments below what really stuck with you. But as always, I'd love to hear from you guys. Comment down below your overall thoughts on Black Panther Wakanda Forever. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Help us get to 1,000 subscribers. Help us start that slow climb to that goal. And if you haven't already, subscribe to us on whatever podcasting app you listen to us on for the Uncharted Media Podcast that just celebrated our 200th episode. Go check out that insane glory that is. And as always, stay sharp, movie guys and gals.